Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Welcome to the podcast, Devin. Look, I'm super excited to have you here.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to be here. Real thankful.
Yeah, man. So the headline, right? I know you're crushing it with everything you guys are doing, wholesaling. You're going to talk to us about the installment method. That's something that folks can start to learn about and do more deals with. But everything that you got going, multiple ventures, buying, new construction, like all of it. Like, I love it. Well, tell me, what is you guys' focus as a real estate investing group right now?
Yeah, currently. So I have two companies that I mainly own and a part of. And one of them is mainly a wholesale company, which it's funny because don't shoot the messenger. And also this is kind of a hot take. I don't think that wholesaling is real estate investing. Coming from a big marketing background, I think wholesaling is a sales and marketing company. And so that is kind of the sales and marketing wing of my fund that then is we actually wholesale to ourselves. So we wholesale to ourselves and we do a lot of flips out of that. Then we also do land development, like larger land development. So we entitle the land, we do all that things. And then we also do new builds. So we work on new builds and that's like really exciting. So we've built out this, I guess, fairly robust, that's all relative, but like a fairly robust wholesale division of the company that then shovels things to the fix and flip and the development side of the company, the construction side of the company.
Yeah, no, look, I believe in that too. My first primary real estate investing mentor always likened wholesaling to like a pawn shop, right?
Yeah.
You're buying like off market properties, pennies on the dollar.
That's right.
But the sales side of things is super important, but you're running a marketing company. So I 1000% agree. And everything that you do should be marketing focused, right? Even offers, even sending
100%.
offers, right? That's a big part of it. So talk about that entry into this space. Did it start with the wholesale venture or were you just a serial entrepreneur and kind of got the real estate bug?
Yeah, so serial entrepreneur, but then as any good millennial, right? Like I was perusing TikTok one night and I saw this guy pop up and he's like, hey, get into real estate with no money and no credit. And I went to my wife and I was like, babe, you should try this. This is awesome. And she was like, no, thanks. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then
What year was this around?
2021. This was like this was like during the golden era of wholesaling for like the last 5 to 10 years, I guess. And so then I joined this guy's Discord, started learning about it. Didn't really dive into it until I had a conversation with my mom. And I was like, Mom, I think I'm going to do this wholesale thing. And she looked at me and she was like, that's what I do, right? And I was wow. What do you mean? And she goes, I work as an acquisitionist for a huge hedge fund and we work with wholesalers. So she's one of the 6 acquisitionists for Amherst. And
I know Amherst. They're one of my buyers. I've done a few deals with them.
That's right. So then and very much so above board, all those things. She wasn't giving me preferential treatment, but she was like, hey, this is what you should do. So we did it very wrong. So I was like, we started and she was teaching me, she would just go on Zillow for sell by owner, offer people, and then that's what they would do. So me and my friends, I was like, hey guys, you guys go on Zillow for sell by owner and I got the connection and we'll split it 50-50. Which was not a good idea because it quickly turned into a company with expenses and they were taking 50% off the top. It was not great. And then it ended up being a huge learning lesson that I'm thankful for. But so we ended up doing 70 deals in our first 6 months. And it was wild. And we were doing
for sell by owner?
For sell by owner. That's it. That's literally it. For sell by owner.
Well, you know what? In 2021, probably was the best time to do it because the market was bananas, interest rates super low, and everything. As soon as
hedge funds were buying,
the properties were worth more than when you put it under contract 6 months later, 3 months.
So we would get houses. I mean, we would make anywhere from 5 to 20 because Amherst caps you at 20 on an assignment. So we were at 20K clip. We were doing $200,000 months. We were crushing out. I was giving away the farm to my friends. And so it ended up again, then everybody knows what happens. November 2021, interest rates rise. The hedge funds stop buying cold turkey, absolutely cold turkey. And so we did 70 deals in the first 6 months, from April to November. Then November to February, we did 4 deals. And so really just fell off the cliff. I had to lay off. So my friends and I, we had this huge it was really unfortunate. I was like, hey, man, I run this business and I'm actually having expenses. I can't do 50%. And they're like, no, cool. We love you. We understand. Like, we're thankful for this, all that stuff. And so then I came back with a proposition and I was like, because we know industry average for an acquisitionist, which is all they were doing barely, they were going on Zillow for sale by owner, is like 8 to 15%. And I was like, guys, I'll give you 20. And they were like, no. And I was just
when
like,
you say 8 to 15%, what is that?
just the acquisition fee, right? Like that's what people pay their acquisition is 8 to 15%, anywhere near in that range for an acquisition person to acquire the property. And that's what they make. And I was like, hey, I'll give you 20% for this. And they were just like, no. And I was like, man. And we really had this, I don't know what it was, but they were some of my best friends at the time. And that was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And we still haven't talked. And like, it was really rough. And I learned a lot during that season. And then from November to February, we only did 4 deals with the funds because they stopped buying as a whole. And then I had to lay off my staff. We had to move out of our office. And I learned a lot of lessons. But thankfully, like, I was in, and I still am, in Collective Genius Mastermind, where I like had a huge amount of access to information on how to actually run a wholesale company. So I spent the next 6 months head down, building out SOPs, building a solid foundation, because I knew, like, I had other companies. I actually had another company that I was running that was very successful that I almost, I did not exit well at all. Sold it, but did not exit well because like I put my head down into this because I knew like this is real estate. And this is going to be something that this is real estate. This is real estate. And so I was just like, I put my head down and focused on this and completely shifted my attention to this and built out systems and processes and set a solid foundation to then where we are today. And so really unorthodox start to the company and then a big crash and burn. And then now we are where we are, which I'm thankful to be here. But a lot of lessons learned in that process.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to talk about the rebuild and what you started doing. But just to give people a little bit of background, what were some of the experiences outside of real estate? What was the other businesses? What were you focused on before you got into this? And then kind of what you were exiting out of? Like, was there any synergies from your other ventures?
Kind of. Not really. Yeah, kind of. So a lot of it has been branding and marketing. So I had a company, crashed and burned a lot of them, sold 1 or 2 of them. So one of them was a wedding photography company and one of the best, probably one of the best in the country. I had photographers all over the country. I traveled the world to photograph weddings. Nice. It was kind of crazy. So really cool, really big. And for reference, like, it's not like, oh, we paid this guy a couple $1,000. People paid me $15,000 to photograph their wedding. So like, nice. It was like, we are a really good company, good sized company. And that's the one that I sold and kind of like shifted my attention from. Had a marketing company where we ran ads and created content and commercials for companies like Kubota. And we were on ESPN and all those things. And then we also had a company, where we created masterclass level, like, masterclass. Mm-hmm. Like we created courses like that for regular people. So you didn't have to be Steph Curry to get a masterclass course. So it was, I've done a couple of those things. And so very, very much so like digital marketing, content creation based around like good quality stuff rather than, and then not like real estate at all, but does play a role into what we do. And especially as we build out our fund and the stories we tell and the things we do with that as we raise capital. And it does play a role in there, not as much on like the wholesaling side. Now, granted, marketing and branding.
Exactly. Yeah. And here's the thing. So much of the wholesaling industry and what folks really need to be focused on right now, I believe, is attracting inbound leads, right? Mm-hmm. Versus what was huge, 5 years ago. It's a bunch of cold calling, a bunch of outbound reach. Yeah. Some of that stuff, of course, still works for sure, but having the ability to take what you learned in marketing and digital marketing and maybe attracting leads. I'm assuming you're doing some level of that now, but I don't want to.
I actually don't.
I don't want to put that on you. But how did you get the business back going? What did you put in place to really ramp things up now?
Yeah, and really quickly too, just to say, like, I don't, and people, and I don't know if people would be surprised. I use more of the marketing stuff to raise capital now. So like, and that's a big part of real estate. Big part of real estate is raising capital. People always asking me, how do you raise capital? How do you raise capital? And so that's where like I shifted, and that's where my previous experience plays more in the capital raising and the branding and the story of that. Cause I think that is he who holds the cash holds the deal, the everything. So, right,
Yeah.
that's what it is. He who holds the gold holds the something, the deal,
The castle or something, right? Well, so please let's talk about that, because I think that there's not enough investors and wholesalers that are beginning their journey that really have awareness around this. They're just focused on next deal, next contract. I want to learn from you, and then also ask your advice to somebody that is wholesaling right now. What should they be doing to prepare themselves to be able to raise capital for larger deals, acquisitions, and et cetera into the future?
Sure. So there's things they could do now, and then there's things that they can kind of plan for in the future as far as like conversations and stuff, because here's where's the trajectory of this. We started getting into foreclosures, and with foreclosures, huge profit opportunities. I mean, like that's all we do now, but also requires capital to get a lot of those deals done, because you got to pay off arrears, you got to reinstate loans, you got to do things to stop the auction potentially, and you want to have capital for it, and you want to have easy, quick access to capital for it. And so for us, that's what began starting the process of me raising capital, was the necessity for capital, because foreclosures just required it. And I think that also helps with a lot of the other deals that we do now, because we can come with cash, with especially like with the installment method and things that require that cash up front to begin to put your name on the title or things like that. Like the capital is necessary. So because of that trajectory, what we began doing was looking for capital, and people will be really surprised how easy it is to access capital, especially if you tell stories. So really, it's going to be about stories, right? People, and this is, I love the quote by Maya Angelou: people will forget what you do, they'll forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so if in our jobs, in our career, in this capacity, we're telling the stories of the people we actually help, what ends up happening is people begin feeling things. And I think we get Instagram and social media wrong, in that we think that people want to see what we're doing, and they want to see like our life and all that stuff. And sure, we can document that, but people actually get on social media to feel something. That's why they scroll through. They either want to feel entertained, they want to feel educated, they want to feel something, they want to feel valued, they want that dopamine hit and the likes or whatever. And so if we can, in our content that we create, begin to make people feel something, then that's when we begin creating connection and relationships that then impact our business. And so I think we have to shift the mindset of like, oh, let me tell people all about me. Like what we do is we try to tell people about the stories of the people that we're helping, because people feel like they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So when I raise capital and I talk to people, I'm like, hey, this is what your money goes towards. Sure, you're going to like, and I tell people this because so now I have a fund and we raise capital for the fund, and I go, look, your money's going to make money. That's just a given. It's real estate and we have deeply discounted property, whatever. But you're going to be able to make an impact with your money. And if you don't want to make that impact with your money, then I don't want your money. And so for people to know there's a story, there's a reason why we do what we do. And if they want to be a part of that, they invest with us. And so people come and they invest with us in the droves now. I had to start a fund because people want to invest with us because they love the stories that we tell. They love the people that we help. And they don't just want their money growing at losing a percent at the rate of inflation in a mutual fund. They want their money to be growing because it's in discounted real estate, but they want their money to actually make an impact in the world. And so for us to tell the stories of the impact that we're making through what we're doing is great, is what makes them really enticed to invest with us. And the fact that it's backed by real estate is what actually brings the validity to it, is what brings the authority to it, to where they go, I know real estate is a good asset. I have no idea how to invest in real estate. This person does. And so then I can come to them. So if I were to say anybody, like, right, the number one thing to start right now is just literally start telling stories. Start telling stories of the deal that you got yesterday and the person you helped. Hey, this person was trying to move to Florida because their cousin died and they wanted to be closer to family. We were able to help them do this, this, and that. We were able to help move their stuff into a storage unit, and now they can go be with their family. That's the story.
And how do you start a fund? Like, and I'm assuming,
oh, you just dove in there. That's
right. And because I want to really, I mean, in this show, of course, it's like the nuts and bolts of how to do the things that the great guests do.
Yep.
But I'm assuming that you started with raising a fund for your own deals, and I'm assuming that you also raise funds to leverage for other folks' deals as well. when you were starting, were you starting just for yourself, and how do you raise a fund, or can you just pull together funds or have people that say, hey, I'm ready to invest when you have something, and then just put it straight into the deal without actually putting a fund together?
So this is good. So I would always suggest starting, because so I geek out on this, man. Like we're about I get real geeky on this. I love this work of funds because it allows me to scale impact. At the end of the day, my life is, I want to make the most amount of impact in the world that I can. And I've got a BHAG, right? I don't know if anybody's familiar with that big, hairy, audacious goal, to be able to transform the lives of 10,000 families in America by renting out 1,000 units of affordable housing in 10 major cities around the country. And then also by the byproduct of that would also be to affect foster care, because both of these are huge systemic issues in the United States. And I can mail my senator all I want, but unless I actually have some sort of influence, I'm not going to be able to make impact. So I think a fund allows you to be able to scale influence at a super high level to be able to create a massive amount of impact. That's one of the big reasons why I started one. Now, you really have to geek out on this, because we're talking about now SEC securities law and paying $40,000 to an attorney to create a PP to even get it started with a fund. So I would say before that, I started getting private lenders that would lend to me on individual projects.
Okay.
Private lenders that lend to me on individual projects. I'd go, hey, so somebody, because here is a very 0 to 1 practical way to do this. You're telling stories, and then you go, hey, I need people to help me to affect more lives. Does anybody have money sitting on the sidelines, sitting in an old 401k, or invested into a mutual fund that's just losing money at the rate of inflation, that's looking to have it backed by deeply discounted real estate? So you wouldn't just say that in one thing. Right. But what I would start doing is I honestly began sharing a bunch of just economic posts. I mean, I would just repost things on inflation's at 6%. Your mutual fund is at 4%. You're losing your CD sitting in Wells Fargo's at 4%. You're losing 2% a year. And then I just began educating people on what's actually happening to their money. And then I would come on the back end and be like, help me change these lives by investing into deeply discounted real estate. You got money sitting on the sideline. And then I would be super passive vague, where I'd be you could even be you could say something like, oh man, helped one of our private lenders make 12% on their money. And people are like, whoa, how much? How much? 12%? And of course it's annualized. So really you're making 1% a month. And so if you're holding their money for 4 months, they're making 4% on their money for 4 months, which is fantastic. Right. And so that's the kind of thing that I just started posting. I started posting stories, and then I started educating people on what's actually happening to their money, because more people than not have money invested and they have no idea what's happening to it. So I started using a ton of private lenders. Actually, that's not even really true. I really only had 3 private lenders. So I had 3 private lenders investing on these jobs with me. But those 3 private lenders helped me to create a track record of taking properties, flipping them, burying them, whatever, taking properties, helping them escape foreclosure, selling them, making a profit, paying off my lenders. I created a track record because funds are probably, everybody you listen to on a podcast will tell you a fund is the hardest thing to start because it's the hardest thing to raise capital for. Start with single asset syndications or start with private lenders on single deals, create a track record. Then once you have a track record, then you could start a fund. A fund is extremely lucrative. I think out of all of and again, I don't care about money. Money's a byproduct of the impact I want to make. But out of all the billionaires, 15% of them are made in some sort of investment fund management. And then another 5% are made in real estate. So if you stack those, 20% of all billionaires in the world are in funds, essentially. And so funds and syndications, it's extremely lucrative. And I would spend the rest of my life doing it because of the impact that I want to scale. But it's also really hard to raise blind money to go, hey, give me your money. I'm going to pull it and I'll give you a return. And so starting with single assets that you can say, this is the actual asset that we're doing. This is the project. I can give you the economics of this project. Here's the thesis. Here's all of this stuff. And then move from there. That makes it much easier to raise capital for. So when you can bring that down and go, here's one property. Here's how much I'm going to flip it for. Here's how long I'm going to do this for. Would you like to be a private lender at 12% annualized on this and make more money than you would on the stock market? sure, okay, we're going to go through, look, you're actually going to be on the deed because we have a promissory note and we're going to do this with the title company. You're going to be my either first position or second position lender on the deed. And so then if anything happens, you get the property. So like it's backed by discounted real estate. You have no risk here. Then that allows them to be able to really trust you to create that track record. So then now when I moved into a fund, my investors were like, oh yeah, of course.
Makes sense.
And they invested more with me. Now, a big part of that too was like, I'm sorry, man, I told you